Welcome to Thought Grid. Tonight, we delve into the darkest corners of human experience, where the line between fear and fascination blurs, and the most primal terrors come to life. We're exploring stories that are not for the faint of heart, tales of disturbing incidents that leave an indelible mark on the psyche. These aren't just narratives. They are chilling echoes of real events, accounts from individuals who faced unimaginable horrors and survived or didn't. Before we begin, if you find these stories as unsettling as we do, please remember to like this video and subscribe to Thought Grid for more chilling tales. Now, let's begin. Story 1. The Collector's Trophy Room. This first harrowing account comes from a young woman named Sarah, a talented art student who, in the summer of 2018, took on a seemingly innocuous house-sitting job in a secluded, sprawling mansion nestled deep within a private estate. The owner, an eccentric and reclusive art collector named Mr. Alistair Finch, was away on an extended trip, and Sarah was tasked with looking after his vast collection of rare and unusual artifacts. She saw it as a perfect opportunity to earn some money and find inspiration for her own work, surrounded by unique pieces of art. The mansion itself was a labyrinth of dimly lit corridors, high ceilings, and rooms filled to the brim with strange and exotic objects. There were ancient tribal masks, taxidermied animals from every corner of the globe, antique weapons, and unsettling sculptures that seemed to watch her with unseen eyes. Sarah, initially intrigued by the sheer volume and diversity of the collection, found herself increasingly unnerved by its macabre undertones. Many of the pieces had a disturbing quality, a sense of dark energy that seemed to permeate the very air of the house. Her first few days were uneventful, a quiet routine of watering plants, feeding Mr. Finch's exotic birds, and ensuring the security of the estate. But as the days bled into nights, Sarah began to notice subtle shifts in the mansion's atmosphere. Doors she was certain she had closed would be ajar. Faint, unidentifiable scents, like old blood and formaldehyde, would waft through the air, only to disappear as quickly as they came. She dismissed them as the quirks of an old house, or perhaps her imagination playing tricks on her in the vast, silent rooms. The true horror began when she discovered a hidden room. While dusting a particularly ornate bookshelf in Mr. Finch's study, a section of the wall swung inward, revealing a narrow, dark passage. Curiosity, a dangerous companion in such a place, compelled her to explore. She grabbed a flashlight and cautiously stepped into the darkness, the air growing colder, heavier with each step. The passage led to a heavy, reinforced door, unlike any other in the house. It was locked, but a small, tarnished silver key, hidden beneath a loose floorboard nearby, opened it with a soft click. What Sarah found inside was not a forgotten library or a hidden vault of treasures. It was a room that defied description, a place where the very concept of humanity seemed to have been twisted into something grotesque. The walls were lined with glass display cases, illuminated by dim, flickering lights. And inside those cases were not artifacts, but human remains. Not skeletons, but meticulously preserved body parts, arranged with an artist's precision. There were severed hands, posed as if reaching out, their fingers delicately articulated. There were faces, preserved in expressions of terror or agony, their eyes replaced with glass marbles that seemed to follow her every move. There were torsos, meticulously dissected and reassembled, revealing the intricate network of veins and muscles beneath the skin. And worst of all, there were female bodies, or parts of them, posed in disturbing, almost artistic tableaux. Sarah's stomach churned. A wave of nausea washed over her, threatening to overwhelm her. She stumbled backward, her mind struggling to comprehend the horror before her. This wasn't a collection. It was a charnel house, a macabre gallery of human suffering. The air in the room was thick with the cloying scent of preservatives and something else, something metallic and sweet like fresh blood. She noticed a small leather-bound journal on a pedestal in the center of the room. With trembling hands, she opened it. It was Mr. Finch's diary, detailing his collection. He wrote about his subjects with a chilling detachment, describing their capture, their preparation, and the artistic vision behind each gruesome display. He spoke of the beauty of the human form, the exquisite detail of its inner workings, and the satisfaction of preserving it for eternity. He particularly focused on the female form, detailing his preference for certain body types, certain expressions of fear. As Sarah read, a horrifying realization dawned on her. Mr. Finch wasn't just a collector of art, he was a collector of people, and his trophy room was a testament to his depravity. She noticed a recent entry, dated just a week before his supposed trip. It described his latest acquisition, a young woman with long, dark hair and artistic hands, perfect for his new sculpture. Sarah's blood ran cold. She had long, dark hair, and she was an art student, her hands often stained with paint and charcoal. The climax of her terrifying discovery occurred when she heard a faint click from the hidden door. She spun around, her heart pounding, and saw the door slowly swinging shut. She was trapped. She screamed, a raw, primal sound of terror, and pounded on the heavy door, but it was thick and soundproof. She was in Mr. Finch's trophy room, surrounded by his gruesome collection, and he was home. She heard a soft, almost delighted chuckle from the other side of the door, a sound that sent shivers down her spine. "Welcome, my dear." Mr. Finch's voice purred, his tone filled with a chilling anticipation. "I've been waiting for you. Your hands, they're simply exquisite." Sarah's mind raced. She was trapped, a new addition to his collection. She looked around the room, her eyes frantically searching for an escape, a weapon, anything. Her gaze fell upon a heavy, ornate bronze statue of a grotesque creature, its sharp claws extended. With a surge of adrenaline, she grabbed it, its weight surprisingly manageable in her terrified hands. She heard Mr. Finch's footsteps approaching, slow and deliberate, a predator savoring its prey. She knew she had only one chance. As the door began to open, revealing Mr. Finch's smiling, eager face, Sarah swung the statue with all her might, aiming for his head. The bronze connected with a sickening thud, and Mr. Finch collapsed to the floor, a dark pool spreading beneath his head. Sarah didn't wait. She scrambled over his body, burst out of the hidden room, and ran through the mansion, not stopping until she was out of the house and sprinting down the long, winding driveway. She didn't look back, not even when she heard a faint groan from inside the mansion. She reached the nearest town, hysterical, and reported everything to the police. They were initially skeptical, but the sheer terror in her voice convinced them to investigate. They found Mr. Finch's body in the hidden room, just as Sarah had described. The trophy room was a scene of unspeakable horror, a testament to a depravity that defied comprehension. The police launched a massive investigation, identifying many of Mr. Finch's subjects and notifying their families, bringing a grim closure to years of unanswered questions. Sarah never fully recovered from the ordeal. She abandoned her art studies, unable to look at the human form without seeing the grotesque displays in Mr. Finch's trophy room. She still has nightmares about the glass eyes, the posed hands, and the chilling purr of Mr. Finch's voice. She never found out how many victims he had claimed, or how long he had been operating his macabre gallery. But she knows, with a terrifying certainty, that some people collect more than just art, and some houses hold secrets far darker than any horror story. And sometimes, when you take on a seemingly innocent job, you might find that you're not just earning money, but becoming the next exhibit in someone else's twisted collection. Story 2. The Doll Maker's Workshop. Our second chilling account comes from a young, aspiring fashion designer named Chloe, who, in the summer of 2020, accepted an internship with a reclusive and highly eccentric doll maker named Madame Evangeline. Madame Evangeline was renowned in certain niche circles for her incredibly lifelike, custom-made porcelain dolls, each a unique work of art that commanded exorbitant prices. Chloe saw this as a golden opportunity to learn intricate craftsmanship and expand her artistic horizons, despite the unsettling rumors that surrounded the doll maker's isolated workshop. The workshop was located in a dilapidated, Gothic-style mansion on the outskirts of a small, forgotten town. The air inside was thick with the cloying scent of porcelain dust, varnish, and something else. Something faintly organic and sweet, like dried flowers and old blood. The mansion was filled with Madame Evangeline's creations, dolls of all sizes, from tiny miniatures to life-sized figures, their glass eyes staring out with an unnerving realism. Chloe, initially fascinated by the artistry, found herself increasingly disturbed by the dolls' expressions, which often seemed to convey a profound sadness or a silent plea. Madame Evangeline herself was a peculiar woman, with sharp, bird-like features, eyes that seemed to pierce through you, and hands that, despite their age, moved with an unsettling precision. She rarely spoke, communicating mostly through gestures and cryptic murmurs. Her instructions were often vague, leaving Chloe to decipher the intricate processes of doll-making through observation and intuition. Chloe spent her days meticulously painting tiny facial features, attaching delicate wigs, and sewing elaborate miniature garments, all under the silent, watchful gaze of the countless dolls that lined the shelves. As the weeks passed, Chloe began to notice disturbing patterns. Madame Evangeline would often disappear for days at a time, returning with new, unfinished doll heads or limbs, always exquisitely crafted, but with an unsettling freshness to the porcelain, as if they had just been molded. Chloe also noticed that the dolls, once completed, were never truly finished in Madame Evangeline's eyes. She would often return to a completed doll, meticulously repainting its eyes or subtly altering its expression, as if trying to capture a fleeting emotion that only she could perceive. The true horror began when Chloe started to recognize faces among the dolls. Not just a vague resemblance, but distinct, undeniable features of women who had recently gone missing from nearby towns. A local news report, which Chloe had dismissed as small-town gossip, had detailed the disappearance of several young women over the past few months, all with similar physical characteristics. Long hair, delicate features, and a certain ethereal beauty. Chloe's blood ran cold. She remembered a doll she had just finished painting, its eyes a striking shade of green, its hair a cascade of fiery red. A perfect match for the description of a missing local artist. Chloe's mind raced. She tried to rationalize it, to dismiss it as a coincidence, a trick of her imagination, but the evidence was too compelling, too disturbing to ignore. She began to secretly investigate, searching Madame Evangeline's private quarters, hoping to find an explanation, a logical reason for the unsettling similarities. What she found was not a logical explanation, but a horrifying confirmation of her darkest fears. Hidden beneath a loose floorboard in Madame Evangeline's bedroom, Chloe discovered a collection of personal effects, photographs, driver's licenses, and small sentimental trinkets, all belonging to the missing women. And among them, a series of meticulously drawn sketches, anatomical studies of the female form, with detailed notes on bone structure, muscle density, and the precise angles of facial expressions, particularly those of fear and despair. It was clear that Madame Evangeline was not just a doll maker. She was a collector of human forms, a macabre artist who sought to capture the essence of life and death in her porcelain creations. As Chloe read, a horrifying realization dawned on her. Madame Evangeline wasn't just seeking a muse, she was seeking her next material. and her hyper-realistic human sculptures were not sculptures at all. They were the preserved remains of her previous models, transformed into macabre works of art. She noticed a recent entry, dated just a few days prior. It described her latest artistic vision, a sculpture depicting a young woman in a state of profound terror, her body contorted in a final, desperate struggle. The description matched her own physical characteristics, her long, flowing hair, her delicate features, her artistic hands. The climax of Chloe's terrifying discovery occurred when she heard Madame Evangeline's footsteps approaching the bedroom. Chloe scrambled to replace the floorboard, her heart pounding in her chest, but it was too late. Madame Evangeline stood in the doorway, her bird-like eyes fixed on Chloe, a slow, chilling smile spreading across her face. "My dear," she purred, her voice a raspy whisper, "you found my little secret, and now you can be part of my greatest masterpiece." Chloe screamed, a raw, primal sound of terror, and tried to run, but Madame Evangeline moved with an unnatural speed, her frail hands gripping Chloe's arm with surprising strength. Chloe struggled, kicking and biting, but the doll maker was stronger than she looked, her grip like iron. Madame Evangeline dragged Chloe into a hidden room, a smaller, more sterile space, filled with surgical tools, vats of a strange, viscous liquid, and a chilling array of unfinished doll parts, eyes, limbs, torsos, all disturbingly lifelike. And in the center of the room, a large, empty display case, perfectly sized for a life-sized doll. Chloe's mind raced. She was to be the next doll, her body meticulously preserved, her essence captured in porcelain. She saw a small, sharp scalpel on a nearby table, its blade glinting in the dim light. With a surge of adrenaline, she twisted free from Madame Evangeline's grasp, grabbed the scalpel, and plunged it into the doll maker's arm. Madame Evangeline shrieked, a sound of pain and rage, and released Chloe. Chloe didn't hesitate. She ran, bursting out of the hidden room, through the workshop, and out of the mansion, not stopping until she was far away, the chilling laughter of Madame Evangeline echoing behind her. She reached the nearest town, hysterical, and reported everything to the police. They were initially skeptical, but the sheer terror in her voice and the detailed description of the workshop convinced them to investigate. They found the mansion, just as Chloe had described, filled with the unsettling dolls. They found the hidden room, the surgical tools, and the vats of preserving liquid. But Madame Evangeline was gone. There was no trace of her, only a trail of blood leading into the dense woods behind the mansion. The police launched a massive search operation, but Madame Evangeline was never found. The dolls were seized as evidence, and many of them were eventually identified as the missing women, bringing a grim closure to their families. Chloe never pursued fashion design again. She still has nightmares about the glass eyes, the preserved faces, and the chilling purr of Madame Evangeline's voice. She never found out how many victims the doll maker had claimed, or how long he had been operating his macabre workshop. But she knows, with a terrifying certainty, that some artists create more than just art, and some dolls are not just made of porcelain, but of human flesh and bone. And sometimes, when you seek inspiration, you might find yourself becoming the next masterpiece in someone else's twisted collection. Story 3. The Sculptor's Muse. Our final and perhaps most disturbing account comes from a young aspiring model named Jessica, who, in the spring of 2022, answered an advertisement for a unique artistic project. The ad, placed by a renowned but reclusive sculptor named Elias Thorne, sought a muse for a series of groundbreaking, hyper-realistic human sculptures. Jessica, eager for a break into the art world and drawn by Thorne's reputation for pushing boundaries, saw this as an incredible opportunity, despite the vague and somewhat unsettling nature of the advertisement. Thorne's studio was located in a converted industrial warehouse on the outskirts of the city, a vast, cavernous space filled with his previous works, unsettlingly lifelike figures, often depicted in states of distress or transformation. The air was thick with the scent of clay, plaster, and something else, something faintly metallic and sweet, like blood and chemicals. Thorn himself was an intense, brooding man, with piercing eyes that seemed to strip away layers of pretense, and hands that, despite their size, moved with an almost surgical precision. He spoke little, preferring to communicate through his art, and his gaze often lingered on Jessica with an unnerving intensity. Jessica's initial sessions involved traditional modeling poses, but Thorn's methods quickly grew unconventional. He insisted on long, arduous sessions, often lasting for hours without a break, during which he would meticulously study every curve and contour of her body, sketching and molding with an almost obsessive focus. He would often ask her to hold increasingly uncomfortable and contorted positions, claiming it was essential for capturing the raw emotion he sought. Jessica, though uncomfortable, endured, believing it was part of the artistic process, a necessary sacrifice for her big break. Then, the requests grew more disturbing. Thorn began to ask her to pose in ways that mimicked scenes of violence or extreme distress. He would describe in chilling detail the emotions he wanted her to convey: terror, agony, despair, the moment of ultimate surrender. He would play unsettling audio recordings during their sessions. Screams, muffled pleas, the sound of tearing flesh, claiming it helped her tap into the raw emotions he needed. Jessica's discomfort grew into a gnawing fear. She started to feel a profound sense of unease, a chilling realization that Thorn's artistic vision was rooted in something far darker than mere human emotion. The true horror began when Thorn introduced new materials into his work. He started to incorporate what he vaguely referred to as organic compounds into his sculptures, claiming they provided an unparalleled realism. The studio began to smell of formaldehyde and something else, something distinctly putrid, like decaying flesh. Jessica noticed that the new sculptures, once completed, were not merely lifelike. They were disturbingly real. The skin seemed to breathe, the eyes held a chilling depth, and the hair felt unnervingly natural. She also noticed that Thorn's previous muses, other young women who had modeled for him, had mysteriously disappeared from the local art scene, their last known contact being with Thorn. Jessica's mind raced. She tried to rationalize it, to dismiss it as her imagination, a consequence of the unsettling environment. But the evidence was too compelling, too disturbing to ignore. She began to secretly investigate, searching Thorn's private office, hoping to find an explanation, a logical reason for the unsettling realism of his new works. What she found was not a logical explanation, but a horrifying confirmation of her darkest fears. Hidden beneath a false bottom in Thorn's desk, Jessica discovered a collection of personal effects: photographs, driver's licenses, and small sentimental trinkets, all belonging to the missing models, and among them a series of meticulously detailed anatomical diagrams, not of human anatomy, but of a process, a chilling step-by-step guide to preserving human tissue, to transforming flesh and bone into a permanent, lifelike sculpture. It was clear that Elias Thorn was not just a sculptor. He was a taxidermist of human beings, a macabre artist who sought to capture the essence of life and death in his grotesque creations. He particularly focused on the female form, detailing his preference for certain body types, certain expressions of fear and agony, and the precise methods for achieving them. As Jessica read, a horrifying realization dawned on her. Thorn wasn't just seeking a muse, he was seeking his next material, and his hyper-realistic human sculptures were not sculptures at all. They were the preserved remains of his previous models, transformed into macabre works of art. She noticed a recent entry dated just a few days prior. It described his latest artistic vision, a sculpture depicting a young woman in a state of profound terror, her body contorted in a final, desperate struggle. The description matched her own physical characteristics, her long, flowing hair, her delicate features, her artistic hands. The climax of Jessica's terrifying discovery occurred when she heard Thorne's heavy footsteps approaching the office. Jessica scrambled to replace the false bottom, her heart pounding in her chest, but it was too late. Thorne stood in the doorway, his piercing eyes fixed on Jessica, a slow, chilling smile spreading across his face. "My dear," he purred, his voice a low, resonant rumble. "You've found my little secret, and now you can be part of my greatest masterpiece." Jessica screamed, a raw, primal sound of terror, and tried to run, but Thorne moved with surprising speed, his large hands gripping Jessica's arm with an iron-like strength. Jessica struggled, kicking and biting, but the sculptor was far stronger than she looked, his grip like a vice. Thorne dragged Jessica into a hidden room, a smaller, more sterile space, filled with surgical tools, vats of a strange, viscous, preserving liquid, and a chilling array of human remains. Eyes, limbs, torsos, all disturbingly lifelike. And in the center of the room, a large, empty pedestal, perfectly sized for a life-sized human sculpture. Jessica's mind raced. She was to be the next sculpture, her body meticulously preserved, her essence captured in a grotesque work of art. She saw a small, sharp scalpel on a nearby table, its blade glinting in the dim light. With a surge of adrenaline, she twisted free from Thorne's grasp, grabbed the scalpel, and plunged it into the sculptor's leg. Thorne roared in pain and rage, releasing Jessica. Jessica didn't hesitate. She ran, bursting out of the hidden room, through the studio and out of the warehouse, not stopping until she was far away, the chilling screams of Thorne echoing behind her. She reached the nearest police station, hysterical, and reported everything. They were initially skeptical, but the sheer terror in her voice and the detailed description of the studio convinced them to investigate. They found the warehouse, just as Jessica had described, filled with the unsettlingly lifelike sculptures. They found the hidden room, the surgical tools, and the vats of preserving liquid. And they found Elias Thorne, bleeding profusely from a deep wound in his leg, surrounded by his macabre creations. He was arrested on the spot. The police launched a massive investigation, identifying many of Thorne's sculptures as the missing models, bringing a grim closure to their families. Jessica never modeled again. She still has nightmares about the lifelike eyes, the preserved faces, and the chilling purr of Thorne's voice. She never found out how many victims the sculptor had claimed or how long he had been operating his macabre workshop. But he knows, with a terrifying certainty, that some artists create more than just art, and some muses are not just inspirations, but the very material of a nightmare. And sometimes, when you seek fame, you might find yourself becoming the next masterpiece in someone else's twisted collection, a permanent exhibit in a gallery of human suffering. Conclusion. These three accounts, drawn from the chilling realities of human depravity, serve as a stark reminder that the most terrifying monsters are not supernatural entities but human beings who have abandoned all semblance of morality and compassion. Each story, unique in its manifestation, shares a common thread, the profound vulnerability of individuals who, in their pursuit of art, inspiration, or a better life, find themselves ensnared in the web of a predator whose artistic vision is rooted in suffering and death. Sarah, the art student, learned that the allure of a secluded mansion and a rare art collection can mask a horrifying secret. Her encounter with Mr. Finch's trophy room shattered her perception of art and beauty, leaving her with a chilling understanding that some collectors are not just patrons of art, but architects of human suffering. Her story is a testament to the fact that the pursuit of artistic inspiration, when untempered by caution, can lead to a fate far worse than any creative block. Chloe, the aspiring fashion designer, discovered that the promise of a prestigious internship can be a deceptive lure, leading her into the heart of a macabre workshop. Her terrifying ordeal with Madame Evangeline, the doll maker who sought to capture the essence of life in porcelain, revealed that some artists are not just creators, but collectors of human souls, their masterpieces built upon a foundation of pain and despair. Her case serves as a powerful warning that when you seek mentorship, you might find yourself becoming the next exhibit in someone else's twisted gallery. And Jessica, the aspiring model, found that the allure of fame and artistic recognition can be a dangerous trap. Her experience with Elias Thorne, the sculptor who sought to preserve human beauty in a grotesque form, proved that some artists are not just seeking a muse, but a material, their creative vision fueled by a depraved desire to control and possess. Her story is a stark reminder that when you offer yourself as a canvas, you might find yourself becoming a permanent part of a collection you never intended to join. These narratives are not mere fiction, they are echoes of real incidents, whispers from the dark corners of human nature. They remind us that the trust we place in the pursuit of art, in the assumption that creativity is a noble endeavor, can be profoundly misplaced. The Femgore horror stories serve as a powerful, cautionary tale, urging us to remain vigilant, to question the intentions of those who seek to capture our likeness, and to remember that when you step into the world of art, you might not just be creating, but becoming a part of a nightmare from which there is no escape. The chilling reality of these stories lies in their insidious nature. They don't rely on supernatural phenomena, but on the calculated, deliberate cruelty of human beings. The horror is not in the unknown, but in the known, in the realization that the person you admire, the person you trust, is capable of unimaginable depravity. The studio, the workshop, the mansion. These are not just settings. They are extensions of the predator's mind, carefully curated spaces designed to lure, trap, and ultimately consume their victims. The terror comes from the slow, dawning realization that you are not just a subject, but an object, a piece of raw material to be molded and shaped according to someone else's twisted desires. These stories also highlight the vulnerability of those who are driven by passion and ambition. The art student, the fashion designer, the model, they are all individuals who are willing to take risks, to push boundaries, to sacrifice for their art. This very passion, this very drive, is what makes them so appealing to predators like Mr. Finch, Madame Evangeline, and Elias Thorne. They see not just a muse, but a willing participant, someone whose desire for recognition can be exploited, whose trust can be manipulated, and whose body can be transformed into a grotesque work of art. Furthermore, the psychological impact of these experiences is profound and long-lasting. The victims, even those who physically escape, are often left with deep emotional scars. A profound distrust of others, a fear of enclosed spaces, a constant sense of being watched, and a lingering sense of their own mortality. The very things that once brought them joy, art, fashion, beauty, become sources of terror, forever tainted by the memory of their ordeal. These are the true costs of encountering a monster in human form. These narratives, while disturbing, serve a purpose beyond mere entertainment. They are cautionary tales, echoing the primal fears of being objectified, of losing control, and of the ultimate violation of one's own body. The victims, seeking to express themselves through art, become proxies for the audience, experiencing the gradual erosion of their autonomy and the terrifying realization that some secrets are best left buried. The psychological impact is profound, leaving the victims forever altered, their sense of self irrevocably shattered. The stories are not just about what happened, but about the lingering dread, the constant vigilance, and the chilling knowledge that the pursuit of beauty can, in an instant, become a stage for unspeakable horror. Ultimately, These stories are a testament to the fact that horror doesn't always need a supernatural explanation. Sometimes, the most terrifying things are the ones that could happen to anyone, at any time, in any seemingly safe place. The artist's studio, stepping into the heart of creativity, inadvertently steps into its nightmares. And the chilling truth is, once you've seen what lurks beneath the surface of artistic genius, you can never truly feel safe again. The echoes of these real incidents serve as a stark warning. When you offer yourself as a muse, you're not just inspiring art. You're potentially becoming a part of a collection you never intended to join. A collection where the line between beauty and brutality blurs, and where the most terrifying monsters are not always the ones with teeth and claws, but the ones that reside in the shadows, waiting patiently for their next masterpiece.